Hello and welcome along to the Rangers Rabble International Special. For those of you who have tuned in and seen the intro and thought, oh, that's not my team, I don't have an intro for Scotland, so you'll just have to make do with that. I'm Martin Douglas. Joining me tonight, we have Wilf Marshall. Wilf, how are you?
I'm very well, Martin, very well indeed.
How's the signal up there in Aberdeen?
We'll find out as the evening goes on.
I'm also joined by Scott Kerr. Scott, my friend, how are you tonight after that?
I'm fine, Martin, yourself?
No bad, mate, no bad. And of course, Alan Haggarty. Alan, my friend, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Right, so we are live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, all the usual stuff. If you like what you see, subscribe, follow, like, tell your friends, your aunties, your uncles, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, gents, let's get into it. I know maybe Wilf not as much, but myself, Alan and Scott, we are obviously Scotland fans. Alan, I think a lot of us went into the game tonight with, I don't want to say overconfidence, but possibly confidence that we could go and do it after our performances and Croatia's. Wasn't to be. What did you make it?
No, it wasn't to be. You mentioned the confidence there. For me, it was overconfidence. We seem to think, the Scottish media seem to think anyway, that Scotland all Scotland need to do is get a result against Croatia and we're in the next round. It's easier said than done. This is a team that were in the World Cup final 3 years ago. And I know getting a draw against England was a good result, but it didn't make us world beaters overnight. So it was always going to be an uphill struggle tonight. Aspects of the performance I was quite pleased with. Thought Scotland played well at times, as they have in every game of the tournament, but ultimately outclassed by a better opposition and glorious failure once again for Scotland.
I did put it out on Twitter before the game. Is it going to be glory or glorious failure? And I think deep down we all knew, that wasn't going to be. We've got a comment in for CGM straight away. Hello, CGM. Soon as took about 10 seconds to rip O'Donnell and say Patterson should have played. Look, I don't want to make this a Rangers thing. This isn't about Rangers tonight. This is about Scotland. I want to make that absolutely clear. But Wilf, it was very evident from minutes into the game that O'Donnell was having a poor game, a typical bog standard O'Donnell performance, to be honest.
Well, you've got to feel a bit sorry for Stephen O'Donnell because he's just not good enough for this level, and he's been picked by his former club manager and been asked to play. Now, he's been asked to play in a formation that, to me, he can't play. Stephen O'Donnell's a serviceable right back, but he's not a serviceable wing back. And Scotland had to win the game. He played well against England because Scotland sat in and didn't make any of the play. The way I saw it, I don't really have any dog in the fight in international football. I watch it because it's football. But the way I see it, you can use him in a back five if you're going to be sitting and defending, but you can't use him in a back three with two attacking wing backs because he's not an attacking wing back.
No, he's not. He's not an attacking wing back, Scott. It showed, but we'll come back to individuals in a wee sec because it wasn't just Stephen O'Donnell. Let's be brutally honest. There was a lot of players in that team. But what did you make of tonight's game?
Honestly, they played actually okay. They weren't any worse than they were against England or Czech Republic. To be fair, I think just Croatia are just a quality side and they're technically very good. And the goal that Modric scored just sums it up. How well they played. They sped the game up at times with one touches. They could turn the ball in the corner and somebody else was there. They were moving off the ball. Scotland looked good on breaking, but that was about a breaking. But we've not got enough quality, and that's a problem. They're a good side and a good average side in that national football. But when you want to go up to the next level and stuff, you need a quality player. And you can see you get Tierney and Robertson like the fullbacks. Look at Wales, for instance. They probably get a roughly the same amount of players as Scotland as in quality-wise, but you've got Gareth Bale, and that's the difference. He's a difference maker for him. Maybe even Ramsey, but Gareth Bale, Scotland's getting hung up top, man.
Well, there's not international teams out there who manage to play quite well without any world-class players. In my opinion, it's my own personal opinion, and I might get ripped here. The closest player that we have, apart from obviously Billy Gilmore, but he's young, he's going to become I think he's going to become one of the best midfielders in the world, but that's just my opinion. The closest player we have to a world-class player is Kieran Tierney. But CGM's in, Alan, with Clarke got it wrong again. The English game was one that suited us. We didn't attack. The 2 games we had, we were clueless. So how much does Clarke need to take responsibility for this?
I mean, I think if he's any kind of man, he will take responsibility for it instead of lumping what blame there could be laid onto the players. I don't think he'll come out and slaughter O'Donnell for having a bad game tonight, or Marshall for his error, against the Czechs. I think if he's any kind of manager, he'll come in and he will protect these players a wee bit. And if you could respect Steve Clarke in any way, shape or form, then he might gain a little bit of credibility if he does that. But I seen another comment there. I think we've lost 2 of them. I seen another comment. I think it was JD for the pod. Was asking if we think we had a God-given right to be in the EPL. Do you think that's a fair comment? Sorry, we had a God-given right to be a good side because of the players we've got in the EPL. Do you think that's a fair comment? Sorry.
It's not, because the players have to perform in that stage, and we have to get players in the EPL, but when you're putting the better players, you look better yourself. I always think you get McTominay, who I always thought McTominay's a boy who I like because he does well, but he does well. He can't up at a level. When he comes to, he plays Man United, he get better players about him. Comes into the Scotland side, and he's the one that's got to shoulder a lot of the responsibility, whereas at United he doesn't. So I think it's a big step for guys like that who are playing the better players and then coming into Scotland, and they're having to be the one to shoulder the responsibility, take control, take charge. And I think, like Martin said earlier, Billy Gilmore done that, and he's won performance so far. He's going to pitch and took charge. It was like he wanted to be there. This is his stage. Some of the boys don't. You see when McKenna come on, he's like a rabbit in headlights. So I think that just shows you the type of players we need. We need players who are willing to show up and take charge of themselves in this level. Some of them are scared to do that.
It was a type of comment. It just reminded me, Scotland could easily pick a squad, or at least a team, a starting lineup of players that play in the English Premier League. That doesn't make them great players. You look at some of the players that you could mention there, and some of the teams they're playing with.
Well, Alioski plays for North Macedonia. He plays in the Premier League.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because there's teams in that Premier League. I mean, I'm sorry, right? I don't buy the EPL is the greatest thing since sliced bread and all the teams are magically fantastic. England didn't really do too well in this group, if I'm being brutally honest. But look, Scott, is there anything that Clarke could have done tonight? We'll come on to the previous games, but is there anything that Clarke could have done tonight to change it? Maybe make certain substitutes a little bit earlier?
I think Stevie Clarke is going to go with his favourites. Every manager does. He's going to go with a tried and tested Scotland there. And Stephen O'Donnell, like you mentioned earlier, was one of these guys. Guys like McGregor as well, who I thought was decent, Carl McGregor. But when you look at the Scotland bench, apart from the boys like Nez, but obviously we like Patterson. And Patterson would have done an excellent job tonight. They missed Gilmore. But go with guys that are in form. Don't go with guys' reputations. And I think that's where they missed. Some of the games, you just picking guys just because they were there originally, or somebody like Ryan Christie, who's played well in the past. Go with the guys who's actually played well this season, who's finished the season well. Because why put them in the squad if they're not giving them a chance?
The one thing that baffled me, and I think somebody actually put it in the group chat, but the one thing that baffled me was that the Scottish midfield at times didn't really seem to want to close down. And Alan, if you don't close down Modric, then he's going to score a goal like that. There was no urgency with the pressing.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. You can't give Modric, Perisic, a couple of other players in that team, you can't give them space because they will tear you apart. For me, there was particular. I think it looked better when we had the starting 11 on the park. But when we started to make changes, Handley, McKenna coming on for Handley was obviously forced. But for me, I mentioned that McKenna didn't look like he knew where he was supposed to be, who he was supposed to be picking up. there was no pressing. He was coming forward. He was going back again, and there was a goal coming from somewhere. And with that sort of no knowing what your role is, nobody shut him down. It was a matter of time before Croatia got their second goal. As good as well as Scotland had done to shut them out up until that point.
Are you with us, Wilf?
I think so, yeah. Sorry.
For any,
the Tartan Army up here must have been pulling all my stuff out. So,
for anybody who doesn't watch normally, Wilf has got some honking internet up in Aberdeen. So, Wilf, I was just asking the guys there, is there anything that Scotland could have done differently tonight? Is there a different formation we could have played? Was there a different set of players we could have put out? Was there subs we could have made? They could have changed that game? Or do we just have to be brutally honest and say, look, Croatia weren't great, but they're just a better team?
No, Croatia weren't great. They haven't been great the whole tournament. But, they are a better team. I mean, they were World Cup finalists 3 years ago. People have got to that into account. The whole Scotland setup needs looked at. They keep talking about root and branch. They need to do something, and they also need to try and change the attitude of the fabled Tartan Army, because they were delighted to celebrate a draw on Friday, a draw that ultimately got them the only point in the tournament. They accept mediocrity, and you'll never win anything if your support are quite happy to accept mediocrity. You only celebrate a draw if it ultimately achieves you something. And Clarke, Steve Clarke knows he's on a free rein because he got a draw with England. It didn't matter what happened tonight. He could have lost 8-0 tonight, and they would have went, well, he's been unlucky. Billy Gilmore was out with COVID. He would have made a difference. But ultimately, we got a draw with England. I mean, to me, the Tartan Army are like a provincial Scottish club support, as long as they get a result off the big side. Domestically, that's if like say, your Motherwell's command like Aberdeen, St Mirren, if they get a result off Rangers, they're all happy. Doesn't matter what happens the rest of the season. Tartan Army's the same. If they play England and don't get beat, doesn't matter what else happens. And until they change that attitude, Scotland will never do anything, I don't think.
Do you agree with that assessment, Scott?
I do, because I was talking, a couple of folk I was talking to the other day after the England game, they were on the team's chat in the morning, and they were buzzing because they drew England, and one of the managers actually said, I don't care if they don't beat Croatia, at least England have a bet is. And if they've got that attitude, what's the point? What is the point? It's like, do you want to go through into the next round? You'd rather win your 2 games against Croatia and Czech Republic. No care if England is out, killing you were through. But that's not the attitude of Scotland. Well, the Tartan Army. It's like, it beat the big bad English and don't care about this. No, you like to qualify. I've not done it before. You want to do it, but the attitude, like Bob said, it's not going to help with that. If the fans get that attitude, you don't know if it seeps through to the players and media. Media were the same, right enough. I just want to get through without having to kid on my some saying the Tartan Army. I would just get a couple of games under the belt. I don't like to bring on the fact because it's too much build up on nonsense. I just like to play games against other international teams where you can actually enjoy it, because England stuff just annoys me.
I know. Sorry, Alan, I cut you off there.
No, it's all right. It's just maybe what the guys were saying there. The Tartan Army and the Scottish media were wax lyrical and boasting about this draw with England. But at the end of the day, it was a draw that helped England go through as group winners. Scotland are at bottom of the group. It means nothing. In the grand scheme of things, in football's about winning games and achieving things. In the grand scheme of things for Scotland, that draw means absolutely nothing. England will be happier where Scotland will be. So we need to start. We need to start. Addressing our attitude that we accept glorious failure. And I think I don't think that's a problem just with the first team. I think that's a problem right throughout Scottish football, because as Wilf said, how many teams do you see in Scotland that are just happy to get, sit with 10 men behind the ball against Rangers or even Celtic, and they're happy with a draw, and that's their season. They've got a draw against one half of the Old Firm.
Well, see, look,
I know that might not go down too well with people, but
look, we're here to be honest, and I want to make this incredibly clear. This is a Rangers fans channel. This is a Rangers YouTube channel. But for tonight and tonight only, it's a Scotland channel. It's not about Rangers. It's not about Celtic. I'm fed up with this. If you're a Rangers supporter and a Celtic supporter, you can never get on, even at internationals. This is about Scotland. This isn't about Rangers or Celtic. So anything that anybody's got to say I will bring up. If anybody comments anything, I will bring it up. This is about Scotland. This isn't about Rangers. AHISC technology videos. England scored one more goal than us and topped the group. And there probably lies the problem, Wilf, that, all right, we scored a goal tonight, but it was the only goal that we scored in this tournament. I love waiting on
Wolf still celebrating the goal.
I know, look at him. I'll take that one. I'll take that one to you, Scotty. Right, in fact, stop. Brenda's empty biscuit tin. Right, okay, that's funny. Booing Rangers players makes it about Rangers. 110% booing Rangers players. That's a section of the Scotland support. I will not let a section of the Scotland support stop me from supporting my country.
I stopped going, to be honest with you, Martin.
If you don't want to go, you don't go. That's absolutely fine.
I took my son and Larry Ferguson get abused non-stop, and I said, I'm not going back to this. And he was getting cold or different, and I'm not going to sit through this, but I'll still, you're watching the tail.
No, listen, 100%. Look, they booed Ryan Jack at Aberdeen, but he was always going to get booed at Aberdeen. Doesn't he make it right? It's completely fucking wrong. And I understand if there's Rangers supporters out there who don't want to, but I don't want to see people slagging people for not supporting a country, whatever. It's your own choice, and whatever you choose should be okay with other people. You support your country, you don't support your country. It's completely up to you. Sorry, Scotty, on you go.
Well, I mean, we scored a good goal tonight, but over the 3 games, we did have chances to score more, which was quite, I'm not saying enjoyable, but we were creating things. Even against England, we created a few chances. We created a few chances tonight. It's just a lack of, I think it's over the team, just a lack of quality, I don't know what it is, quality, confidence, bad luck, you don't really know, but it's just, we can't put a ball in the net. I don't think Adams and Dykes are the best up front. They're probably the best we've got at the moment. I'd have given Nesbitt a game, so a boy can put the ball in the net, and to me, put a ball in the net at any level, he's being a chance. But I don't know where Clarke goes with this. I don't think he should be sacked. I think he should walk away. So I think he's got us into a tournament first time for a while. So you have to give him another chance. But I think he has to look at himself and say, I need to pick my team a bit better, especially when you get the guys in studio like Souness and Scott Brown again at Patterson should come on early and stuff like that. So I think you maybe have to look at yourself. I do, like I say, being a coach myself in the past and being not just a youth boy, a boys team coach, but you always pick guys you like or guys that become your favourites. It's just human nature. So obviously professional managers are the same thing. So I can understand that side of it, but here I have to look at it, of course, coming through. I mean, you've got Patterson coming through, you've got Turnbull there, you've got Gilmer. So there's a good core of young guys coming through. It's quite positive. We're just lacking a keeper. Until we see with a decent goalie. That's what we're lacking, a good goalie. So
we've got Ross Clarke, our good friend Ross. Scotty, David Marshall's not even in the top 5 best Scottish goalkeepers. And Alan, I did find that a strange one because I would have probably picked Craig Gordon over David Marshall.
Clarke trusted Marshall. I don't know if you saw his interview before the game, but Clarke claimed that Marshall was one of the first calls he made when he got the job, said he was coming along. I actually found it a wee bit disrespectful to the other goalkeepers because Clarke claimed he told Marshall that, you're coming in and you're going to be playing. So it doesn't matter how bad you are during the season at your club. It doesn't matter how bad you are when you come in and you're training with the national team. You're going to be playing, and the other goalkeepers are there to make up the numbers. That's the message I got for that. And I thought, if I was Craig Gordon or John McLaughlin listening to that, I don't think I'd be too happy with it, because it's just basically ruling their chance out of ever getting in the team as long as David Marshall's there. But I don't think Marshall is the best goalkeeper.
No, but you know what? There's a good comment here again. Marshall played well tonight. He made some very good saves. He was not the problem, and that's right. He wasn't the problem. But you know what? It was the problem in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, and by the way, can I just state I would have had John McLaughlin. Maybe it's because I'm a Rangers supporter, but I think John McLaughlin, apart from obviously Alan Haggarty, is probably the best Scottish goalkeeper. But in that first game, why Marshall's standing where he's standing, Scott, I've got no idea. So he might have played really well tonight, but he was honking in the first one, which has probably ultimately cost us.
It probably did, Martin, but I'll be devil's advocate here again. And where he was standing, it might have been slightly further afield, but goalies do come out for. coaching goalies always tell him to come out a bit far in case a long ball. So he's probably done that in a way, but he was out a bit far. But to be honest with you, the finish for the boy was top notch, and if he told him to try it another 9 times, he would probably miss. So he was just very unlucky. So I'll stick up for him a bit. Might have been just too far, but he goes coming out far all the time, you do. And he's just in a pace to go back. And they look quite silly going back to me, but the guy has it so sweet.
I must admit, I was raging that we lost that because as soon as we lost that first game, I kind of knew, right, we're not going to qualify here. But some of the memes or whatever you call them, some of the videos or whatever, I must admit, they were quite funny. So, Alan, what have you made of the tournament overall for Scotland? In fact, see, before we come to that, let's address the whole Stevie Clarke stuff first. There is absolutely no danger he's losing his job, is there?
None whatsoever. I think we could have got scalped in off 3 games and he'd keep his job. Getting Scotland qualifying for this tournament was the achievement. It was done, it was done through UEFA's version of the back door through this what do they call it? The Nations League.
The Nations League.
Yeah, it wasn't done through qualifying through your qualifying group. So getting here at all was just that was the achievement. There's a degree of sympathy with him, but with all managers at this competition, that plans and training schedules, everything was thrown into chaos with COVID. There's been different players at different times. There's players, players in the Scotland camp that had to isolate before the tournament started, and then Billy Gilmour now. So again, there's a degree of what could have been if this wasn't the case. So there's no danger that Clarke's going to lose his job. He's not going to get sacked, and I can't see him walking away. He'll want a crack again if he's any type of manager. He'll want to test himself at the very highest level. So he'll want a crack at qualifying for the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Quite right. That's his job. That's his career. If he wants a crack at that, you can't hold that against him. So I can't see him walking away either.
I can maybe see him appearing as the manager of another club in 6 months' time if things don't go right. But we shall leave that for the Rangers podcast. Can I just, Mr.
I can't see Steven Gerrard losing his job this season.
Fair enough. Mr. Giza, I don't know. Congratulations to Scotland on that fight. Spirit, so hard opponent. Wish you all the best, guys. I'm guessing that's obviously a Croatian, so thank you very much for watching. Do you know what, Scott? I heard so much about, Croatia were past it, they were poor. They might not have played well, but I tell you what, they're still a fantastic team, aren't they? The way they, it's not, and it's, do you know what? It's not just Modric. They've got some fantastic midfield players.
They have, and they play the ball. They know where that each other's going to be. They play the ball quick. They play it precise to each other. They put a bit of fizz in the passing. Nothing's slow with them, and they can slow the game down and speed it up. Like we started okay, but then they started holding the ball and gaining possession. It was just a matter of time before they scored. When we get equaliser, we thought, and a wee chance here, but Croatia just getting up to a notch again. And I know people were saying earlier about pressing and stuff, but see, when you're pressing a team that are very good at passing, very hard to press, because if you press too much, you end up going through you, and if you don't press at all, they're going to play around about you. So it's a very hard thing to do. Now I feel there's no really vote for pressing. Once McGinn, Armstrong, and McGregor, looking like to go forward, and McGregor might be sat, so you maybe miss McTominay sitting in the midfield, but you're playing in the midfield. You missed them for the back, because I thought in the first game, the back three looked that great either. So, I don't know, but Croatia, I don't think they're going to go where they did the World Cup years ago, but I think they could maybe go through the next round, depending on who they get.
Well, here's a question, Alan, from Darren Stewart. Expectations are so low. What would constitute failure for Clarke? 1 point and 1 goal doesn't seem like a cause for celebration to me. I don't know anybody who's celebrating. I know people are celebrating England result, but what constitutes failure at this tournament? Because like Darren says there, it's a pretty poor showing, really. And by the way, before you come in, RFC 55, I will come to a couple of positive things before we finish, I promise. Sorry, Alan, on you go.
I don't think Scotland, I don't think in the eyes of the SFA, the die-hard Scotland fans that, travel the world watching their team, and the Scottish media, I don't think failure was possible at this competition. The fact that Scotland qualified was the success. Unless Scotland went out and lost every game 7-8-0, I don't think Scotland could have failed. I don't think it would have been written like that. I think you would have been picking up the papers tomorrow morning, or going online, and it would have been, thanks for giving us this week, Steve Clarke, and thanks for getting Scotland back to a major tournament, because that's how the Scottish media react to these kind of things. So I really don't think there could have been failure. I think failure will probably come in
qualifiers,
in the World Cup qualifiers, and you could maybe narrowly miss out and you go, oh, that's unlucky. But I think if Scotland go and get tanked in the World Cup qualifiers, which is possible, I think that's when that'll be failure, and that's when these jobs it'll be scrutinised.
Yeah, I think you're right, Alan. I think because we've hit this tournament, the qualifier for this tournament, the expectations will go up slightly. So a lot of people we maybe expecting us to do well to get qualified for the World Cup, and I think if we didn't do that, then it might come back and happen then. So I think you're right on that, because I don't think there's any fear in this tournament for Scotland. There's no one. They drew a game, they lost 2, they scored a goal, not great, but we got here and that. And you see the papers are more thanks for the memories, and it's not great memories, but it's not bad memories. It's better than watching other countries in the telly and you're not being there. So at least we had that positive. Do you know what I mean? It's been like this since 98, so it's been a long time. So
no, I know. Ironically, I watched that in Blackpool.
If we watched it in black and white,
probably. In fact, it might have been black and white. We've got our good Croatian friend, who I'm not going to butcher your name again, sorry. He's just put, we tried to get to second position in the group stage to ourselves, best option. But on the other hand, we had problems with some players in the squad and in-game positions. I didn't really see that. I thought Croatia, I mean, we started the game well. We were pressing high intensity. As soon as they get their foot in the ball, I couldn't really see past them, to be honest. But look, let's finish on some positivity, Scott. Let's be positive. Moving forward, have you seen enough from the young players in this Scotland team to fill you with confidence for the future? I realised I asked that in a kind of dismissive tone.
There is, I think, look at some of the young players. There's players who are Bulgard around, I mean, there's McTominay, there's McGinn, there's Turnbull, there's Patterson, there's Gilmer, and there's other Nesbitt as well. So players that you can build a squad around. And obviously there's going to be other guys that will come in. World Cup qualifiers, maybe guys that will drop out, but obviously Tierney and Robertson. So the problem with Tierney and Robertson is they put down the left side, they play down the same side for me, so it's taking a lot away from the other side, and that's where O'Donnell's finding it very difficult, because if Robertson gets beat, Tierney's there. If O'Donnell gets beat, he's struggling because not really anybody supporting him on that side. So you've got to give the guy a bit off his back a bit and see he's struggling out there. If he's somebody next to him like Tierney or Robertson, he's going to be struggling as much, but so he's no good enough anyway. But I'm just defending him a bit. But I think the players they've got, yourself, Martin, Billy Gilmour one game against England, even though the English media were talking about him, because you know how good he can be, this lad. So fingers crossed he proves everybody right. But you've got other players, Turnbull done well with Celtic, so I think he's due a chance. Patterson, I think, come on, he's not going for 8 minutes. You look, he doesn't have a place, and there's Nesbitt, I think he should be given a chance as well. So it's good for the future. Just hopefully he can build a team together that's strong enough to get it there.
Do you know what always gets me when I say we're going to kind of finish up now and whatever? Somebody comes in with a comment and I want to finish on a positive, so I'll get this out the road and then I'll come to you for your positive, Alan. CGM, Graham Souness saying we are miles away. Now, look, I love Graham Souness. Graham Souness came to Rangers and revived Rangers and whatever, but this is the same Graham Souness who the other night was so happy and joyful after the England game. Before the game, he was talking about what we can do. So I don't know if that's just, disappointment for Graham. But I don't think we're miles away from being competitive. But we're not going to win anything. But, not many international teams do win.
I think that, and I never heard Souness make that comment. I turned it off to come on this by the time he was talking again. The only thing I can think he means in reference to, I think, the Scotland setup as a whole. I was thinking this other night, you go back to the 90s, Scotland were in major international tournaments, 3 major international tournaments in the 90s. Wales were football and nobodies. Now Wales are qualifying for tournaments, they're reaching the latter stages. All right, they've produced Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, and a host of other players that are playing in the Premier League. They must have came for a similar setup as Scotland at some point. So the only thing that I can think it might mean miles away is Scotland as a whole, the SFA right down need to look at the Scotland setup and why we're not producing these players and how Wales have went so far ahead of us in the last 20, 25 years. That's the only thing I can think that it means that we need to compare ourselves to a similar sized nation with a similar sized background and start to ask some questions of why we're not producing those players. We are starting to now, in my opinion. I think Patterson, Turnbull, even Kieran Tierney's, when he's fit, he's doing well for himself. Andy Robertson's done really well for himself. Billy Gilmour could be the best Scottish player. He could easily be the best Scottish player since name anybody you want there. He could be the best Scottish player of all time if he wants to be. The way it's looking just now, so it's the only thing that I can think Souness might have meant. But I would need to go and listen to the comment in context before I can give you a definitive answer.
Well, Scott, that's not the right one. Scott, what he was saying that we are playing hoofball tactics in football from the 80s. He wasn't holding back. Do you agree with that assessment?
Listen, I don't think we're playing hoofball, but he's probably saying you probably watch the Croatia and see how they pass the ball smoothly and stuff like that, and going touching and looking at us and thinking, how can we do the same thing? It's difficult when you don't get the same quality of players, but there's no saying at half time you get the ball forward more to Dykes and Adams. I'm sure he said that, so if that's the case, he's going to talk about his own comment there, because when playing top front, you're going to get the ball forward quicker, especially when you're getting beat 2-1. The first thing is to go long, so I don't know, but I said that I go, you're right. I thought he said at half time to get the ball forward quicker to Adams and Dykes, so I don't know.
If you need a goal, what do you do? Do you do a nice short pass and pass it back, pass it sideways, or do you, when you've got a big striker like Dykes and Shea Adams who can really control a ball and trap it, you fire it to them, don't you? You try and get midfield runners to run past them. I mean, I'm no manager. Souness was a manager and a fantastic football player, but if I was managing Scotland, that's what I would have done in that situation now.
Yeah, and you see it all the time. You see it, the tactics at the highest level. When you're chasing a game, you're chasing a goal, you get players forward, you put the ball up to your big players up there. So yeah, if that's the context you say, then it's probably been out of frustration and disappointment more than anything else. Which is maybe a little bit harsh criticism on the players tonight.
No, because I think there is genuine criticisms in there for certain players, but I think mostly for the manager. I think there is. But Alan, give me your positives, and then I shall go and finish off my beers.
Positive. I just think
from the whole tournament.
I think there's great players coming through. As I say, Tierney, Robertson. McGinn's doing really well for himself. I think we've yet to see the best in Nisbet, Patterson, Turnbull. We've spoke about Gilmour. Do we need to find somebody that can stick the ball in the net? Yeah, absolutely. Do we need to find goalkeepers coming through, because the 3 goalkeepers that were there were all 30 plus? Yeah, we need to find that, but we know we need to find that, so that's not really a negative for me, because if we know it sitting watching at the telly, then surely God, the man in the dugout knows it, and that's his job to resolve that issue. So for me, there's I think there's a lot of good positive things to come through. There's a lot of good positive young players coming through, and hopefully, I don't watch a lot of Scotland under 21s, but hopefully at that level, I certainly know there's players coming through the Rangers youth team that we're excited about. So hopefully they're going to have bright futures, maybe getting the national team. Hopefully that's the same at other clubs as well. Now that clubs are getting youth teams back playing after COVID, so I think the future could be bright for Scotland. It just needs managed properly, and I don't just mean for Steve Clarke. I mean right the way through the bottom down. So plenty to look forward to.
100%. RFC 55 still keeping it positive. Well done, Croatia. Yes, sir. I can still boogie. And I'm going to finish with you, Scott, and I want you to explain what this comment means. Modric is the Croatian Doc Cotton. What does that mean?
Let's let Doc Cotton.
I do not know what that comment means.
EastEnders Doc Cotton.
It's the first time I've been bamboozled by a comment.
I don't think I've ever seen Doc Cotton play football, so I can't comment on that.
We could have been more in depth. Look, there's some fantastic comments coming in. CGM as ever. We could have been into individual performances right through the game, right through all three games. But look, there's no point. Scotland are out. They're going home, even though they are home.
Yep.
But if that makes sense. So look, if this is your first time on the channel and you're not necessarily a Rangers supporter, well, I mean, why would you bother subscribing? But I'm going to ask you to subscribe anyway on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Rangers Rabble. We are on Twitter at Rangers Rabble, facebook.com/Jers Rabble. We will be back on Thursday with our live podcast at either 6, 7, 8, depending on what time the guys fancy coming on at. Then I'll be on holiday for 2 weeks, so I believe in charge. Somebody will be in charge. Somebody will need to do all this bullshit behind the scenes. And then we'll be back as soon as the season's back. We'll be back with our usual 2 podcasts a week plus our match reactions and stuff like that. But look, disappointment. Scotland are out. We can't do about it. Glorious failure as ever. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we shall speak to you very, very soon.